You have never once in your entire life experienced a full minute. Not really. Your brain deletes roughly 40% of your waking hours before you even notice they happened, not because time moved fast, but because you weren't there for it. Neuroscientists call this attentional blindness to the routine, and it's quietly erasing years of your life while you're still alive to live them. This isn't a video about time management. Time was never the resource you were losing. It's about the one resource underneath it, and by the end of this, you'll know exactly how to stop leaking it. Here's the trap. We treat every hour as identical. An hour scrolling, an hour with your kid, an hour in a meeting you could have skipped. On a calendar, they all take up the same box, but your brain doesn't record them equally. Some hours get burned into memory. Others vanish the moment they end because your brain didn't consider them worth saving. You tell yourself, I'll be more present tomorrow. Tomorrow doesn't fix this because the problem isn't a lack of willpower. It's a lack of understanding of why your brain decides what counts as real and what gets discarded as noise. Think about the last time you drove somewhere familiar and arrived with zero memory of the drive. You didn't lose those 20 minutes to traffic. You lost them to your own neurology. Multiply that by every commute, every scroll, every same old day, and you start to see the actual size of the leak. Let's define one term before we go further: salience. Salience just means how much your brain flags something as important enough to notice and store. High salience means vivid and remembered. Low salience means gone. Your brain runs on something researchers call a prediction engine. It's constantly guessing what's about to happen based on what happened before. When reality matches the prediction, the same route, the same breakfast, the same 8:47 a.m. Slack notification, there's no prediction error, which is the technical term for reality surprised me. No error means no signal to your brain that says save this, it matters. This is why your first month at a new job felt like it lasted a year, but your 5th year there evaporated in what felt like a season. New job equals constant prediction errors, which leads to high salience, meaning time expands in memory. 5th year means your brain has the model memorized, so almost nothing gets logged. Here's the counterintuitive part. This isn't a bug, it's efficiency. A brain that stored every identical commute in full detail would run out of storage and burn enormous energy. Your brain is deliberately compressing the repetitive parts of your life into a kind of highlight-free background file, the mental equivalent of a phone auto-deleting duplicate photos. The problem isn't that this system exists. The problem is most people never learn to work with it. They let entire seasons of their life slide into background file status by accident, simply because nothing forced a prediction error. There's a second layer to this. Dopamine isn't actually the pleasure chemical most people think it is. It's the anticipation chemical, released more for the chase of something novel than the having of it. That's why an infinite scroll feed is so good at stealing attention. Every swipe is a fresh, tiny prediction error opportunity engineered by design. Your brain flags each swipe as slightly salient enough to keep going, but never salient enough to actually remember what you saw. You can lose 90 minutes to this and be unable to recall a single thing from it because it was built to feel eventful while being memory empty. So the real equation is salience equals novelty times attention times consequence. Miss any of those three, and the hour disappears from your personal record, whether or not the clock says you spent it on something good.
Understanding the mechanism is interesting, but turning it into leverage is powerful. Here are 5 concrete protocols you can use immediately. Protocol 1. Engineer a prediction error once a day. You don't need a new job or a new city. Reverse your route home. Eat something you've never tried. Ask a coworker one real question instead of asking how it's going. Small, deliberate novelty forces your brain to log the day instead of filing it as a duplicate. Protocol 2. Do a Friday salience audit, not a task audit. Most people review what they did this week. Instead, ask, what will I actually remember from this week in 5 years? If the honest answer is nothing, that's the signal. Not that your week was wasted, but that it was invisible to your own memory. Redesign one recurring block of your week around this. Protocol 3. Front-load consequence into low-stakes moments. Salient spikes when something matters. You can borrow this artificially. Tell someone you're about to explain a new idea to them to add stakes, or set a tiny deadline on a task that had none. The brain treats the thought of this having a consequence as reason enough to pay attention, which is reason enough to remember it. Protocol 4. Treat your attention like a limited daily allocation, not an infinite tap. Instead of a to-do list, try a where does my attention go list with 3 columns. Deliberate, meaning things you chose to focus on, default, meaning things you drifted into, and drained, meaning things that took attention and gave nothing back. Most people find the default column is bigger than both the others combined. That column is your leak. Protocol 5. Kill one autopilot loop per month on purpose. Pick one habitual zero-novelty routine, like a show you rewatch passively, a scroll habit, or a commute you could vary, and deliberately interrupt it. Not forever, but just enough to force one more prediction error into a part of your life that's currently running on mute. None of these make your day longer. They make more of your day count, which neurologically is the closest thing to actually getting more time. Here's the uncomfortable reframe. It was never your calendar that was full or empty. It was your attention. You can have an objectively packed week and remember almost none of it, or a quiet Tuesday afternoon that stays with you for decades. The difference isn't hours, it's salience. So the real question isn't how do I get more time? Nobody gets more of that. The question is, what did I make my brain flag as worth keeping today? Which loops back to where we started. You've likely already forgotten most of the last hour before this one. The one difference now is that you understand why. And understanding why is the first prediction error strong enough to make this video the one you actually remember.